Replay. Thank you, everybody, for watching this replay. I just started a camera over here, and you'll be able to watch a video of behind the scenes. So make sure and reach out and comment or leave your email, and I'll send you a link to the behind the scenes on what it takes to go live. And the reason I'm going live is because I am trying to share with all of you what I'm doing in business this year and how I'm taking a collection of ideas that I have and experiments that I've run before in previous businesses and kind of putting it together into a new set of businesses. So this year, I'm pivoting from being a classic real estate investor where I was wholesaling and flipping and actively looking for deals. I've been kind of moving away from that for a while because I kind of have the portfolio of rentals that I want. Instead, I'm switching to lending and I'm switching to consulting, and which is the reason I'm doing more and more video content now, is because I'm getting the word out of the benefits that I offer. So the tiers here are that I'm going to provide tons of free content, tons of free resources, a YouTube channel, podcast, a newsletter. If you're not already on that, drop a link in here below and I'll add you to, or drop your email and I'll add you to the newsletter, because it's a much more thorough, thoughtful way of presenting my ideas. Because I really spent a lot of time thinking about and kind of curating a lot of ideas into something that is actionable for you so that you can grow your real estate business. And today I'm going to be talking about the power of the scientific method. And that doesn't sound all that sexy of a topic, but think for a second if you knew that this technique, the scientific method, could unlock the struggles that you've had in business thus far. If you were able to kind of crack the code in how to make your business successful, would you do it? And the answer, of course, is yes. And I really believe that being scientific and running experiments is the way to figure it out, because there's a lot of principles and there's a lot of stuff online. I mean, there's no secret that out there. It's just your implementation in your situation that's unique to you that you've got to figure out. And the best way to do that is to run little experiments. And I believe that is the best way to launch something new or to scale something up that you already have, is to run little small scientific experiments, run marketing campaigns, run a new sales tactic, run a new sales copy, do something, accurately measure it all, and figure out what worked and what didn't work. And really all that is a scientific method. And when you say it like that, it sounds kind of obvious, doesn't it? Of course, that's what you do. But I find that that's not what people do. They really have this big idea and they're certain that it's right, and they do it, and they never consider the fact that their insight may have been invalid or their execution may have been wrong. Basically, the problem is often you, and it's not the market. The market is what it is. You can't change it. What you can control is you and how you interact with the market. And that oftentimes keeps you from seeing your own mistakes. So it's sometimes helpful to get an outside party to look at you and say, okay, what are you trying? Let's talk it out. And a lot of times in the talking it out loud, you kind of hear yourself. You're like, oh, okay, well, that wasn't, oh, I'm the problem, or what I thought was right wasn't actually right, or what I'm saying just is not that smart. It was, for lack of a better term, it was just stupid. Oh, I'm the idiot. Okay. And I think that's an empowering thing to recognize, that when you're running these experiments, that you're trying to basically remove your flaws from the experiment. So let's just kind of run through an example of what I did in my life when I was working in an office job, a 9 to 5 corporate drone, and really was unfulfilled with that job. And I really wanted another way to earn an income to replace that job, so that I didn't have to have that job. I didn't have to ask permission to go on vacation anymore if I didn't want to. I wanted to be able to be my own boss and say, when I'm ready to go on that beach vacation, we go, and I go for as long as I want. And so long as I can afford it, I'm going. So what I did, I thought, well, what could I do? What experiment? So first, the first step in the scientific method is that you identify a problem, and the problem was I wanted to escape my job, or and I would say right now I want to scale my business. I want to launch basically a new product line, let's say. And in the case of when I was escaping my day job, I thought, well, what could I do to earn additional income? So I developed a hypothesis, scientific method that said, I believe that if I could go out and buy, say, 100 properties, that I would have enough extra income from those rental properties that I could basically have sufficient income to replace my day job. I'll be able to fire my day job and be a landlord and be okay with that. So that was my hypothesis. So I wanted, I didn't, my hypothesis wasn't a 7-year experiment to go buy 100 properties. My experiment became, can I go buy one property? Like let's narrow it down to the smallest attainable goal, and let's run the experiment, uh, collect the data, and then look at the results and to see what the problems were, and then iterate on that. And if there were problems, make improvements and iterate. So what I did is I went out and found one property. I bought it using the BRRRR method. I did the research, and I bought it. I borrowed private money. I found a private money lender through BiggerPockets. I bought that property with private money, and then used my own cash to about $10,000 to rehab the property. And then I refinanced it, paid back the private lender, and then had a long-term rental. And that's been 7 or 8 years ago at this point, and I still have that same property, and it still cash flows, and it still, I mean, I have a property manager, and I just spend zero time thinking about that. So overall, I would say that experiment was successful. Um, it was a proof of concept that yes, I can buy properties using the BRRRR method. I can raise private money. I can use my credit to get refinanced to a commercial loan. Okay, can I do this more? So I repeated the process and said, can I do this at scale? So I have a proof of concept, and can I go and buy more properties using the same method? I think I went on to buy something like 10 properties in the next 10 months using that same method. I bought them all from wholesalers. I didn't find the properties myself. I didn't go out and do the door knocking or the marketing myself. I paid for them all through a wholesaler, or at least most of them anyway, and ran that same experiment. And that's how the scientific experiment works. But as I was running the experiment, I basically challenged and second guessed using the scientific method, mind you, that like, what can I do to improve here? Like 100 properties, like seems unscalable to me. Like I'm worn out. And I found out that it turns out I'm a terrible property manager, and that the best solution to that was hiring a property manager instead of doing it myself. It was taking up too much of my time. And for me, that just wasn't a good fit. Other people can pull it off. So again, this is not about running a business a certain way that I'm suggesting. It's running experiments using the principles of business, using the scientific method to run experiments and see how that best fits for you and the market cycle you're in and your skill set. And kind of the overlapping Venn diagram of all those things is what you should be doing. And that's probably not the same for most people. And the scientific experiment is or the scientific method and the experiments that you're running is what leads you to those conclusions. Instead of just spraying and praying, throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks, not really knowing if you did not knowing your data and not really knowing what lever led to what result. So you just be very scientific about it and track your results. Like I learned that I'm a terrible bookkeeper as well. So I had to say, okay, well, my new experiment is that I need to run these same properties, but I need to hire a property manager. Okay, did that. Now I need to hire a bookkeeper. And hiring the bookkeeper was revolutionary, because once I found a good one, it changed my life, because I knew exactly what properties were making money and why, and if I was hitting my pro forma numbers or not. And I realized that basically I was running my numbers too aggressively. So I needed to be far more conservative in what my buy price was for properties. And I was underestimating pretty significantly what my what my rehab costs are. I was basically discounting the cost of rehab by too much. And so I had to basically adjust and change my results, or change my assumptions so that my results lined up with reality. And so these are some of the principles that I think we can be using in our life, to in our businesses, to become a better version of ourselves. So we're always, and you have to like put the ego down, and you have to recognize that, oh, I'm probably the problem in most of these cases. Most of the time, if I'm not getting the results that I want, it's because I'm not good enough yet. But that's okay, because most everything is learnable. And if it's not something you want to learn, most everything is delegatable. So I'm throwing a lot of overlapping principles together to figure out what my business philosophy is. And the hope here is that some of these ideas are helping you as well, so that you can kind of take a step back and second guess, or at least reconsider, be open to the idea that maybe you could do something differently. Maybe you could be more um, careful about the way you're doing your experiments, and that you're actually thinking about, oh, experiments, I'm going to write that down, and this is the result I expect, and this is the timeline I expect it in. And then you interrogate those results very carefully, very honestly, to say, okay, that I didn't get the result I wanted, and why. And recognizing that the why is often something that you're doing wrong. I mean, just get over it. That's you're not as good as you need to be yet. So you need to work on what you need to be, to get there. What got you here won't get you there. Big fundamental principle that I learned, that what made me successful in the corporate world was not going to make me successful as an entrepreneur. Some of it ported, some of it helped, but not all of it. Okay, so I'm gonna leave you with this quote from Napoleon, and he had a definition of military genius, and he said, "The man who can do the average thing when everyone else around him is losing his mind, that's military genius." So the average man who can do the average thing when everyone else is around is losing his mind. So oftentimes in business, this same principle applies to business and investing. That if you don't have to be that good, as it turns out, when everything's in chaos, and the world's been in chaos lately. COVID, um, the war in Ukraine, rising interest rates, inflation, um, political turmoil, um, a lot of stuff that's going on in the last couple of years, and we can't control any of that. Like, spending too much time thinking about those things doesn't really help us. But we can't ignore them. We just have to basically say, that's my circumstances, and the average guy who can do maintain average results during that time, can be considered a genius. So we basically, the method there, or the principle there, is don't lose your mind because the world is losing its mind. Keep a level head and think about what's happening. Okay, interest rates are rising, but this is a fact. And inflation is higher than it's been, and they're trying to get it under control. The housing market's been affected. What can I do? And what can I do that isn't so crazy and goofy that I'm going to lose my shirt? Like, principle number one is don't lose money. Principle number two is don't forget principle number one. And so applying these things together, I think, creates a possibility for us to really make a big move in our uh, personal and financial lives right now, if we just keep our heads clear, and we take careful experiments, seize successes, make adjustments if there's not successes. And then when you find something that works, this is what I'll leave you with. When you find something that works, double, triple, quadruple down on what works. Repeat that over and over and over. Any good business Anybody that you know that is a multi-millionaire or billionaire has found something that they're really, really good at it, and they've done it really, really well for a long time at enormous scale. That's the opportunity, and it's available to most of us. We just have to recognize that we're probably the ones getting our own way. So I'll leave you with that. I appreciate you watching, and I'll tune in next week where I will have a live as well, and I will make sure and like and subscribe because I'll be putting out more YouTube content, and so you can get announcements and notifications when that